Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order the 5:15 City Council meeting of May 19th, 2021. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Weir.
Here.
Councilmember Arias.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
I am here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
Councilmember Gray.
Here.
And Councilmember Parlier.
Thank you. On March 4th, Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency in California due to the threat of COVID-19. The governor also passed several executive orders, including the suspension of some components of the Brown Act related to meetings like this one. Therefore, seating in our council chamber is limited. And at this time, is Pastor Nick here? I don't see him in the audience, so Councilmember Patty Gray will offer the invocation. And then following that, we have the honor of having a national champion. Lindsay Harden is part of the award-winning national team of Virtual Enterprise. Student at Stockdale High, she's a superstar there, and their team took first place in the national competition of Virtual Enterprise Human Resources Marketing Division. She presented to judges from all around the world, and she holds a 3.9 GPA and plans to go to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, or UCLA. And is that her colleague on the way down? All right, another member of the team, Chinazo Okidaiki, has a 4.1 GPA and plans to become a nurse anesthetist at Duke or UC Irvine. So now would you all stand? We'll have the invocation first, and then we'll have our young people offer the pledge.
If you'd bow your heads. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this city that you have given to us to steward in a way that would glorify you. Father, your word says that it is good for us to dwell together in unity. So, Father, tonight I pray that your peace and your unity would reside in this chamber, and that those that are here and that are listening on TV would feel your presence and your grace that is operating in our community. We give you the praise, we give you the glory for giving us as city council members and staff the wisdom and the discernment to govern this city in a manner that will glorify you. We give you thanks, and we are with grateful hearts tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated, and young ladies, just stay up there for 1 minute. We have two national champions, Virtual Enterprise, and it's my honor. Uh-oh, you're going to have to get it around. I'm going to wreck it here. And Lindsay, this is Mayor's medal. Congratulations, congratulations. On the first ballot. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We request that you turn off your phones. Please be courteous in the use of cameras and videos, and for safety reasons, and as a courtesy to others, signs are not allowed in the council chamber or in the lobby. Applause is only allowed during the presentations portion of the meeting, but not other portions of the meeting. And please avoid any behavior that disrupts the meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please read the first item?
Under presentations, item 4A, we have a proclamation to Nick Fiddler, Director of the City of Bakersfield Public Works Department, declaring National Public Works Week in Bakersfield during the week of May 16th, 2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, colleagues, imagine if there were no roads to drive on. Imagine if when you went to the bathroom, there was no running water. Public Works provides that infrastructure for us, and we're just so grateful for all that you do. Nick, we are so grateful for the many years you've spent here. We're wishing you all the best. But today, it's my honor to celebrate something on a broader level, which is National Public Works Week. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of informed residents is vital to the efficient operation of the public works system, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these services, whereas the efficiency of qualified and dedicated personnel whose Public Works Department is influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, Karen Go, Mayor of the City of Bakersfield, do hereby proclaim May 16th through 22nd, 2021 is National Public Works Week in our city, and urge citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with how public works serves our community and recognizes the contributions of public works for our health, safety, comfort, and the quality of life. Mr. Fiddler, thank you for your long-standing service, and it's my honor to be able to present this to you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. It has been a pleasure serving for the city for the last 22 years, and especially this is kind of bittersweet being my last week as Public Works Director for the city for the Public Works Week, Recognition Week. So I really appreciate this opportunity, and I appreciate all the opportunities the city has afforded me over the past 22 years. Also would like to acknowledge receipt of this in regards to the Public Works Department and the American Public Works Association, which is a collaboration of public agencies, consultants that work in the public works field, and vendors that work in the public works field to improve and maintain the infrastructure within the public right-of-way. There are several consultants that are here locally that have joined our APWA Kern Charter Branch, and I would like to recognize all those companies that have contributed to our community and making it a safer community and providing the essential services for our community. So again, thank you again for the opportunity with the city, and I thank you for recognizing Public Works for this week.
Thank you so much, Nick. Give it up for Nick Fiddler and the Public Works.
All right.
How many years?
22.
22 years with the City of Bakersfield. Thank you, Nick. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public statements.
This meeting has limited public access, therefore public comments were encouraged to be made to the city clerk through email or by phone call. If you're here in person to make a public statement, please give a public speaker card to our clerk. All statements are given a 3-minute time limit, 15 minutes per topic. If you have a written comment that is longer than your verbal statement, please give your comments to the clerk, who will give copies to the council. If you're here to speak on hearing items 10A through 10D, we ask that you speak after staff's presentation on that matter. We're very interested and concerned with your issues. However, due to the public notice requirement of the Brown Act, council can't take action when an item isn't on the agenda. The council can, however, refer your matter to committee or request that staff contact you. Please avoid any behavior that disrupts the meeting, such as repetitive statements, going off topic, shouting, surpassing the 3-minute time limit. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers?
Mayor Go, we've received 9 public speaker cards, 6 regarding e-bikes and 3 on separate subjects.
Thank you. Would you please call the first public speaker?
The first public speaker is Deborah Mazzone.
Thank you. And Deborah, as you're coming up, just a reminder that we have 15 minutes per topic. You're welcome to come up and introduce yourself.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Deborah Mazzone. I want to start by saying thank you for allowing me this opportunity to express my opinion and my thoughts on this matter. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse since 1975, and you know, I'm living the dream here in Bakersfield. I own my own home. I have a horse. I'm just in heaven here. Now, I do realize riding the trail is inherently dangerous. So I make sure I have a well-trained horse and I wear a helmet at all times. But things happen out there. But it's still such an enjoyable experience out there on our preserve. I do everything I can to keep myself safe and the people I'm with safe also. So saying that, why bring something into the mix? These whizzing little e-bikes that can get me killed. I mean, even in the best of circumstances, I have to be conscious of everything that's around me. If you allow these e-bikes on our preserve, I tell you, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I'll either get hurt or I'll get killed. So please, please, I'm begging you, really reconsider. Don't put us in more danger out there having the time of our lives. That's about the best I can really please. Like I said, this is such a beautiful preserve we have out there. These e-bikes, we have wildlife that they would endanger. It just adds something else to the mix. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Mazzone. Next speaker, please.
Mickey Rivers.
Welcome.
Hi.
Please introduce yourself. Go ahead and pull down the mic a little, please.
Good? Okay. I am Mickey Rivers, and I'm here today in reference to not allowing e-bikes or any type of motorized vehicle on the equestrian trails. I am retired and enjoy riding my horse for relaxation and peace of mind. Local horse trails were established long ago. Designated horse trails, primarily on dirt, are mostly separated from paved bike trails, and motorized traffic is not allowed. Many of the trails go through the Panama Vista Preserve, where many community volunteers have been working hard to restore native plants and animal life. E-bikes or any type of motorized vehicles would be destructive to this area. Okay, safety is considered as being #1 priority. Horses are large and powerful, but they are considered a flight animal when spooked. Can you imagine just riding along, enjoying the peace and quiet and the surrounding beauty of nature when all of a sudden you have an e-bike which can go anywhere from 20 to 40 miles an hour, approach you or your horse behind you, and in front of you, or even from the side? These motorized e-bikes can cause horses to spook, rear, buck, or bolt, throwing the rider to the ground, which in turn could result in serious injuries to the rider or the horse. There are people of all ages and families who ride the equestrian trails. You have to picture in your mind the injuries, especially to a child or an older person, that could happen. Being on the trail, you cannot get an ambulance there due to the terrain. So in this case, it is a life-threatening situation. This is just a prime example of not allowing e-bikes or any motorized vehicles on the equestrian trail. Thank you for taking the time to listen to a very important topic.
Thank you, Ms. Rivers. Next speaker, please.
Larry Mumford.
Welcome. Please
Hi,
introduce yourself.
thank you. I'm Larry Mumford, and I've been riding horses on the trails by the river, specifically from Manor East, which is considered the Panorama Vista Preserve, since the early 1960s. And that area between Manor and Hart Park really hasn't changed, except for the thousands of trees that have been planted out there and the increased habitat and shade and all the other positive things that go along with a nice area like that. But it's hard to find a place in Bakersfield where you can say it hasn't changed since the 60s. And this area hasn't changed since the 60s. And they call it a preserve because it's there to preserve. It's to preserve the wildlife habitat, the trails, the trees, the river, when there's water in it, for future generations. So hopefully my grandkids and their kids will be able to walk and hike and enjoy the area, ride horses the way I have since the 60s. I'm also a motorcycle enthusiast. I've been riding dirt bikes in Kern County and in the deserts in Kern County since the 60s also. And out in Dove Springs, where I ride a couple times a year, where it's legal and proper to ride an off-road vehicle, you're starting to see e-bikes out there on the trails as well. And I'll be honest, I want to get one because they're so cool. They're small enough you can pick up and throw in the back of your truck and haul to the desert, and they have like 12 inches of travel. You can jump them, you can slide them, you can spin donuts, you can climb hills, all the things you can do on the dirt bike, you can do on an e-bike. Not the ones that look like bicycles, the ones that are popular, that are considered crossover or hybrid e-bikes. That's the kind that everyone's going to buy. You can buy a full-fledged dirt bike for $10,000 that's an e-bike now from Yamaha or Honda. But by and large, the most popular, if you go online, look up the most popular e-bikes, are the hybrids and the crossovers. And they have knobbies, and they're basically just dirt bikes. They're not just bicycles, they're dirt bikes. So if you've ever been out to Hart Park, drive out to Hang Glider Hill, look at the erosion, it's just nothing but dirt. And that happened because of dirt bikes years ago. That's why they don't let dirt bikes into areas where that can happen. So that damage lasts like thousands of years. So if you're proposing to allow e-bikes, which is basically dirt bikes, on the Panorama Vista Preserve, not only will you erase the horse culture that's been going on since the 1960s, it'll be gone, they can't coexist, but you'll be destroying the habitat.
Thank you, Mr. Mumford. Your
For a
time
long
is up.
time.
Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you.
And let's, those of you standing in the back, if we can find a seat, because of the fire regulations, we can't have anyone standing, but I think we have some open seats. Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Marcy Cunningham.
While you're coming up here, thank you for being out there at San Miguel Grove and cleaning up with the team.
It was my pleasure.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Marcy Cunningham. I've been a Bakersfield resident for 45 years. And I've had horses even before that time. In the city general plan, Park EIR, and state laws for horse trails, it is stated that horses and all moving vehicles should be kept separated at a safe distance. Now, some want to reverse these policies, potentially making it dangerous to ride horses on designated equestrian trails. The state e-bike laws did not make it legal to ride them on horse trails or walking trails, but our city council wants to make it legal to ride e-bikes on the horse trail. People who ride horses are taxpayers too, and the council wants to disrupt their peaceful form of recreation by allowing motorized bikes on dirt trails. You've already heard how fast they can go. A major component of the parkway has always been restoration of the riparian area, which is incompatible with off-pavement vehicles of any kind, gas or electric. It is estimated that 700 horses are stabled along the Kern River between Manor Street and Golden State Avenue. I'm going to say that again, 700 horses. That's a lot of horses from Manor Street to Golden State Avenue. The owners of these horses deserve to have their voices heard and concerns addressed. Just because a council member has not heard of any encounters of e-bikes and horses that presented problems doesn't mean they can't happen. Perhaps we haven't heard of them because e-bikes currently are not allowed on the horse trails. A comment that because e-bikes are quieter, they must be safer, displays lack of understanding and knowledge of horses. It's wrong to think that e-bikes are any less threatening to equestrians, since being quieter than motorcycles, but just as fast, they can sneak up on riders because the horses will hear them before the rider. That doesn't happen with actual motorcycles, but with an e-bike, your horse is going to hear it before the rider hears it. Horses have really good hearing. This can result in startled and spooked horses and unprepared riders. E-bikes can travel on streets, neighborhood roads, country roads, and the paved bike path. Bird watchers, hikers, and equestrians do not have many options other than the designated hiking and riding trails on the Kern River Parkway. Our Kern River Parkway is a jewel that attracts equestrians to the area.
Ms. Cunningham, your time is up. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you. And next speaker, please. We have, I believe, three more speakers who want to speak on this topic, and 4 minutes and 39 seconds left. Do we have 3 speakers, Madam Clerk?
Correct, Madam Mayor.
So you might want to pace yourself or decide who among you will be speaking. Next speaker, please.
Rich O'Neill.
Welcome.
I should have ran up here if the clock is running.
Now, we stop at 1.
Oh,
Yes, we'll give you time.
My name is Rich O'Neill. I'm with the Kern River Parkway Foundation. And I'm here to speak in favor of keeping all classes of e-bikes on the pavement only. On the pavement, no off-roading. I'm here to speak in favor of keeping the e-bikes from smashing the small plants and animals along our parkway. I'm here to say, please don't allow them on our horse trails and hiking trails. It's dangerous for the horses. Have you ridden a horse lately? They're strong, temperamental, and they startle very easy, like boo. It could be very dangerous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Next speaker, please.
Marian Vargas.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Marian Vargas. I'm an equestrian and longtime Bakersfield resident. As you think about the possibility of allowing e-bikes, there are some questions that I would like you to consider. Is the current width of the paved Kern River Bike Trail wide enough for bicyclists, pedestrians, ranging from babes in strollers to senior citizens, joggers, dog walkers, and e-bikes traveling up to or above 29 miles per hour to safely share the trail all at the same time? If not, is the city willing to pay for widening of the trail? Would widening of the trail require an EIR? A visit to the area of bike trail at Riverwalk typically demonstrates these mixed-use bike trail traffic hazards that already exist. That is without adding the additional speed of e-bikes and possible equestrian encounters. Environmental impact on surrounding land is a serious concern. E-bikes can easily function as off-trail bicycles. Damage to sensitive natural environments on Bakersfield and Kern County lands by illegal OHV use is already a huge, well-documented problem. Off-trail e-bikes present a similar hazard. Please keep e-bikes off of the Kern River Parkway area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vargas. Next speaker, please.
Terry Morley.
And Ms. Morley, we have 2 minutes and 15 seconds left on this topic, and you're the last speaker request, so go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Terry Morley. I'm here today to voice my opposition to allowing e-bikes full access and use of the Kern River trails, and particularly along those areas that are at the northeast end of the trail where equestrians dominate. As you heard earlier, there are at least 700 horses in that area, and there are equestrians all over the place that use those trails in the river bottom. I would like you to recognize that this is one of the last safe, scenic places that we have in the city for us to ride and enjoy our passion safely, although it is getting less and less safe every day for a variety of reasons. For equestrians, it is more than just a recreational pleasure, a recreational outlet. It is a lifestyle. I understand that individuals choose the form of recreation most suited to their personality, skills, and passions. In my youth, I was a mountain biker. I rode the canyons of Utah, both in mountain bikes and horses. I understand the strengths, the dangers, and the passion of both of them. The reality is most bicyclists do not. In those situations, horses and bikes do not mix at all. As you were told, the fast-moving bikes are a real threat to any equestrian and to their horses. My husband and I currently own and ride 3 horses out on these trails at a large boarding facility north of Manor Street. My husband rides about 4 to 5 times a week out on the Panorama Preserve and those surrounding trails. I will go out once or twice. The reality is that we encounter bicyclists and bikes almost every time we go out. We see the marks in the trails everywhere we go. It's increasing in its regularity of our encounters, and it's getting more and more dangerous. Unfortunately, they are not as respectful as we would like them to be, hence the shirt I am wearing. They do not understand the rules of the road. Just last weekend, we came around a corner on a trail. A bicyclist came down the bike path very quickly. We had a young horse. We were screaming at them to stop, and they whipped on by. Our friend's horse panicked. The encounters are going to happen. Someone is going to get hurt. Please do not allow e-bikes access to those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morley. And the next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Go, the next 3 speakers are speaking on separate subjects. The first speaker, Reverend Angelo Frazier.
Mayor, City Council, my name is Pastor Angelo Frazier. I'm a pastor and a volunteer chaplain of the BPD. I've come before this distinguished body many, many times in our pursuit of the In God We Trust decals on the police cars, in which we had that passed a number of years ago. And I've been through a number of city councils to get these things passed, and I've witnessed the way things are handled in proper sessions, decorum, respect. And what I've seen over the last couple meetings and watching online was, I think, disgusting, where people would come into this distinguished body and throw language at you, accuse you of things. It was just disgusting to watch. My heart sank when I saw that. The death of decorum. And so I sent an article into the Bakersfield, California, and I sent it to you as well. We've got to do something about this. We can do better. Ezekiel 33:3 says this, and he who sees the sword coming upon the land blows the trumpet and warns the people. I believe this, verbal abuse leads to property abuse, which leads to physical abuse. If we don't stop this, someone's really going to get hurt. We are better than this as a city, as a people. I experienced going through the councils. People can disagree, and I had people in this council disagree with me respectfully. But when you have people misusing this council, it sets a bad tone, not only here in Bakersfield, but across the country. I had people from the East Coast call me and say, what is happening in your city? They were disgusted at what they saw. We've got to do better. I'm going to continue to pray for you and do anything I can to support the council, the BPD, the sheriff department, and anything I can do in this county to make it better, because what I saw and what I witnessed is harmful and dangerous, and someone is going to get hurt if we don't change and we don't make some changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Frazier. Next speaker, please.
Curtis Bingham.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Curtis James Bingham, Senior, Street Evangelist for our Lord and Savior, God Almighty Jesus Christ, who truly is the only begotten Son of our Holy Heavenly Father God. To our wonderful, beautiful board there, our First Lady and Mayor, Mrs. Go. Thank you for being the mayor. You're a blessing to the whole city. I want to thank the whole council up there. You know, you guys are some of the brightest minds in this city. You're able to answer things that you never studied, because you got the wisdom of God in you. We get knowledge out of a book, but the Bible tells us wisdom come out of heaven. That's why you're able to do what you do. Our Heavenly Father, in the name of God Almighty, Jesus Christ is truly with you. I also like to say, is the Lord tell us, if he don't cut the time short, no flesh will be saved. Now that's the Lord, Matthew 23:24. So what the Lord is saying to you, when it comes to law enforcement, stick with the Lord, because you'll win every single time. In other words, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. You ain't going to change it. I'm not going to change it. This evil is here. The world is going to end because of evil. See, so when they talk about the law this, law that, if they want to get mad at you for putting more law enforcement out there on the street and blessing them with what they need, let them. Because there's the trick behind that. Once you get the power of the city up under your hands, then they come in after you. See, and it hits my heart, because I know the Bible says the simple walk in is punished, but the wise can see. See, they come in after you. They come in after your job. They got in their mind who should be in your place right now. So keep doing what you're doing, because we're winning. We got big areas being developed, and we're going to need law enforcement out there. I can go outside because of the law. I can go to the movie because of the law. I can go to sleep at night because of the law. I can come here because of the law. You can't do nothing without law enforcement. That is the truth. The Lord backs the law in Romans chapter 13. Now, if God Almighty Jesus Christ told us to respect them and honor them, he knows that's what it's going to take for us, no matter what your position is, what you own, what you don't own. If you ain't got law enforcement, you ain't got anything. So whatever you do, and I want to thank you guys. All the years I've been coming, you guys have been blessing them, blessing them, blessing them. The Lord then gave us a new prince in Chief Terry to stand up, and you see how he is. He's very reachable. And I just want to thank you guys for always being there, because I'm not chasing no criminals. You know what I'm saying? But I know the law does, see? And we have to give them thanks, because, see, I'm going to go out of here and go home. The city going to run. How is it going to be running? The law enforcement is out there running it, catching these criminals. You got crack cocaine, you got coke, and you got heroin. It's a misdemeanor. And these drug heads is everywhere, tearing up everything. You can go to the store and steal up to $900 for stuff, and nothing happened. We got to have our law enforcement. They get salaries, but they need more than salary. They need money to combat and fight these criminals who's listening to these meetings, and they don't want to see law enforcement with no money so they can have their way. I want to thank you, Honorable Mayor, being our First Lady. thank the board. I thank you guys for allowing me to come up. And one thing, Mayor, I said one time, I thank you 3 times. That was not me. That was God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Spirit to you, city manager, when I was able to speak, and the Lord, thank you. That was the Lord coming at you 3 times. He was just blessing you. Thank you for being the city manager. Pray God bless everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our final speaker this evening, Mayor, is Michael Harless.
Thank you. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Michael Harless. I like to want to continue talking about the Get buses running night service. Without the night service, people are not able to get to work at the school, have recreation, especially here in Bakersfield and downtown. Right now, the updated is that 4 routes is going to be running as of July, but all buses need to be running, because Bakersfield as a whole cannot function without the bus system. And also the bus stop over there on Union and East Brundage is really damaged. It needs to be repaired. It's just north of the bus stop. It's where wheelchairs and walkers can really get hurt if they don't know what they're doing. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harless. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Consent calendar items 8A through 8Z for approval. We received a staff memorandum regarding item 8H, transmitting exhibits A, B, and C, which were inadvertently left out of the administrative report at the time it was submitted.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. No council members have indicated they want to pull anything tonight, so I move approval of item 8A through 8Z.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Parlier absent.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember Gray, I see that you have pushed your button, and I didn't see it earlier.
That's okay. I just wanted to very quickly thank those, and unfortunately most of them have left, but that came into our chambers tonight, spoke to us with respect and dignity, and is upholding what we desire for the city of Bakersfield. It was totally refreshing to finally see a change in the atmosphere of our chambers tonight. So I just want to thank the public for those that have come, and invite other public members to come in, community members that will step up to that mic and speak on behalf of the average citizen here in Bakersfield. That's what we're needing. That's what we're wanting. We need to support our police department, these wonderful officers that are here with us tonight to protect us and to keep us all safe. We are very grateful. So I just wanted to make that on public record that we as a council appreciate having the community coming in and speaking to us about their concerns with respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gray. Next item, please.
Hearings.
Thank you. Our next item is public hearings. Each side will be allowed 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes for all speakers per side. So it's important that you identify yourself, make your statement succinctly so others may speak. We'll hear statements from those opposed to the staff's recommendation first. Then we'll hear from those who would like to speak in favor of staff's recommendation. If there's testimony on both sides, each side will be allowed a 15-minute rebuttal. There's the clock on the TV screens behind me, which indicates 15 minutes. Please step step to the mic, identify yourself. After 14 minutes, a yellow light will come on. At the end of 15 minutes, a red light will flash indicating your time is up. Quickly end your statement. You may ask questions during your statement, but they won't be addressed until the public hearing is closed. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, please give those to the council. To the city clerk, she'll give copies to the council. Please be courteous and have respect for others who wish to speak. Madam Clerk, please read the first public hearing item.
Public hearing item 10A. Public hearing to consider substantial action plan amendments to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD action plans.
Thank you. Mr. Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is before you tonight as a funding allocation item. This is actually a project that was approved by the City Council in January of last year. And with many of these types of affordable housing projects, the funding balance does change from time to time. We try and encourage those that apply for city funding to leverage other funding sources, get tax credits, state and federal dollars. And there are sometimes adjustments to the ultimate funding for those projects. And this is a fairly routine item that probably would have been on a consent public hearing, but we have other hearing items, so we put it here at this hearing. And these funding allocations are reflective of information that was shared with the Budget and Finance Committee, and would recommend, staff would recommend that council approve these actions to allocate funds to this previously approved project.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? That is, those that are against the HUD action plan amendments. If so, please step to the mic, identify yourself, and proceed. Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of staff's recommendation? That is, those who are in favor of the HUD action plan amendments. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return it to council for comment and action. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of the action plan amendments.
I don't see any other requests to speak. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Parlier absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Public hearing item 10B. Public hearing to consider resolution number 083-072 to amend the Panama and Union planned sewer area boundary and sewer area fee schedule.
Thank you. Mr. Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Nick Fiddler, Public Works Director, will speak to this item.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, on May 5th, 2021, the Council adopted resolution of intent to amend the Panama and Union planned sewer area boundary and fee schedule. This hearing is to approve the amended fee schedule for that planned sewer area. The proposed amendment would extend the boundary to include Kern High School District, Greenfield Elementary School District, and then a parcel located on the northwest corner of Panama, East Panama and Cottonwood Road. These properties are currently in the annexation process. The boundary is being extended so we can provide sewer services to those new school districts. Staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? That is against adopting the Panama and Cottonwood planned sewer area. If so, please step to the mic, identify yourself, and proceed. Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of staff's recommendation? That is, those who are favoring the adoption of the Panama and Cottonwood planned sewer area. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return it to council for comment and action. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to accept staff's recommendation.
Thank you. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Parlier absent.
Thank you. And next item, please.
Public hearing item 10C. Public hearing to consider adoption of resolution and ordinance for the Panama and Cottonwood Planned Sewer Area.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, Nick Fiddler will speak to this item.
Honorable Mayor and council members, this is in conjunction with the last hearing item. This item will create a new planned sewer area to actually support the new high school district and Greenfield school districts projects. This is to establish a planned sewer area to pay for the improvements that are necessary to extend the sewer systems to those facilities and to enhance the existing sewer systems that are in the previous planned sewer area. Staff recommends adoption of the resolution and the ordinance.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? That is, those who are against amending the Verdugo Lane planned sewer area? Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of staff's recommendation? That is, those who are in favor of amending the Verdugo Lane planned sewer? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at, oh, I'm so sorry, come on up. Certainly.
Honorable Mayor, I just wanted to clarify, are we on the, we're adapting the Panama and Cottonwood plans?
Yeah, you mentioned Verdugo.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, something is very out of order on my script.
Thank you.
So it's the Panama and Cottonwood?
It's the Panama and Cottonwood.
Yes. Subsection C.
Yes, they're out of order. We already voted on one, right? Okay, so is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? That is, those who are against adopting the Panama and Cottonwood planned sewer area. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of staff's recommendation? That is, those in favor of adopting the Panama and Cottonwood planned sewer area. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, return it to council for comment and action. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. It feels like a little bit of deja vu tonight, but I move to accept staff's recommendation on this item.
Thank you very much. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Parlier absent.
Thank you. And now, our next item, please.
Public hearing item 10D. Public hearing to consider resolution number 225-06, 1, to amend the Verdugo Lane planned sewer area boundary and approving the amended fee schedule.
Here we go on Verdugo. It pays to pay attention and get some sleep. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, Nick Fiddler will speak to this item.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, again, this is an amendment to an existing planned sewer area. There's a couple of changes with this one. We are extending the fees for this. These fees are set to expire in 2021. This will establish new fees to move forward as developments still continue to occur. In addition, we are revising the boundaries for this planned sewer area as 2 lots are being removed from the planned sewer area as they're being served by a separate system as they were annexed into the city. Staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? That is, those who are against amending the Verdugo Lane planned sewer area. Yes, no, that's my fault. It's what happens when you function on very little sleep. Thank you. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Dave Buck, and I actually live in that area. My only concern is my house faces the Palm Street, not the Schellenberger. And so my concern is, I don't know if my background in engineering, I'm just concerned with how you're going to get the sewer line all the way to that side. So I just had a concern with that. I also had a concern with the amount of money. It's $31,000 over the next 8 years. And so I was a little concerned with that amount of price for that. And my concern is we just bought this house 3 years ago and put it in a brand new septic tank. So that's my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buck. Is there anyone at this time who wishes to speak in support of staff's recommendation? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return it to council for comment and action. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff, you have any answers to his questions, perhaps?
Councilmember Smith, I will ask Stuart Pattison to get his contact information so they can discuss exactly what property he owns and then look for resolution. I do not have those details offhand with me right now.
Okay, thank you. I would move for approval.
Thank you. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Parlier absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
New business item 13A.
Thank you. Mr. Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, this is the Public Works show tonight. We wanted to capture Nick's good work before his departure, and we have two important new business items tonight. This first item is to look at our pavement management system, and there's some in-depth information in your materials, but we'll cover an overview presentation of what that study tells us and how we plan to move forward with that information.
Honorable Mayor, council members, tonight Margot Yap with NCE will be providing an update to our pavement management system. Margot will provide the presentation, so if the clerk could please bring that up, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm Margot Yap, president of NCE, and I have a short presentation to give everyone an update on where we are with the pavement management system. NCE was here about 5 years ago now when we did the initial implementation, and we had made some projections on where we were, and this presentation is intended to just show you where Bakersfield, what has happened in Bakersfield in the last 5 years. So I'm going to try and see if I can get the slides. There we go. Just to kind of do a little bit of a refresher, we wanted to start out with laying out some terminology. What is a pavement management system? And as you can see on the slide, what we really think of it is just a tool to help us answer some questions. And they're fairly basic questions. It's how big is our road network? Is it in good or bad condition? How much money do we need to fix it? What kind of repairs do we need to do? When do we need to do them? And I think the most important part is, how do we spend the money that we do have in the most cost-effective manner possible? So the city has been using a software tool called the Street Saver program. It is one of the widely used in California. Something like about almost 55% of the cities and counties in California use this tool. So there's a lot of California-based information in the prediction models that's used. When we started updating the program back in 2016, at that time, we did work with city staff to evaluate different kinds of software, and after consideration of all the different factors, this particular one was selected. So what I'd like to do first then is talk a little bit about what kind of a network. And I just realized that's a PDF, and so we don't have the animation. What I wanted to share with you is your road network is one of the largest in California. You've got over 1,200 centerline miles. It's a significant asset. And in many ways, I think we take for granted, the roads that we drive on. I usually start a presentation by saying that, when we open our front doors in the morning, the first thing we do is whether we ride a bicycle, take the car, take the bus, take the train, you're going to be using a city-owned or county-owned facility. And the reason I say we take that for granted is because we don't think about not having that facility. Earlier, you had a presentation for National Public Works Week. I think, the words about what the Public Works Department does is very appropriate. And so I just want to emphasize that point. What I would like you to think of is not think of the road network in terms of miles. Think of it as an asset. And because it is an asset, it has a value. And the way we put this value on is that if we had, God forbid, a horrible earthquake, a catastrophic earthquake, and the city had to rebuild every single square inch of that road network, it's going to cost over $1 billion to do so right now. So given that it is a significant asset, what can we do to maintain it? So the pavement management system is really intended to help us figure out what are the impacts of the existing funding, and also to figure out how much funding we need to maintain it at certain levels. So for this update, the first thing we did is we took a look at what the conditions are. And I have a picture to show you that in a second. But I wanted to share with you, this is an image of the vehicle. We call it a semi-automated process because the vehicle collects imagery, digital imagery. It has a laser bar associated with it, and it collects all the transverse and longitudinal profiles. But once that's collected, it has to be processed, and so that takes time. Well, all that work has been completed. We did that back in, I think we started back in maybe November and wrapped it up around March timeframe. And so the processing is completed, and we do have some preliminary results to share with you. These are some of the distresses that we look for. As a pavement engineer, well, let me back up a little bit. My family thinks of cracks as just cracks in the pavement. But me, as a pavement engineer, there's a distinction between the different kinds of cracks. And if you look at these pictures, you'll see that, for instance, there's alligator cracking, there's block cracking, there's distortions. All of these distresses exist in Bakersfield. But if I had a road with alligator cracking, what that tells me is that the repair for that road is going to be significantly more expensive than if I had a road that just showed raveling, for instance. And so it guides us into making some accurate cost estimates for those roads. And to share with you what some examples are, here's a road. This is a portion of F Street. You can see that the PCI, or the Pavement Condition Index, is very high. It's 96. And for those of you who were here back in 2016 when I made this presentation, I said at the time, the PCI is a scale from 0 to 100, 100 being best and 0 being failed. So somewhere, we rank all the roads somewhere along those, along that scale. So F Street at 96 is pretty darn good. It's probably has a very minor defects to it, and it was probably almost brand new. As roads begin to age, now you have G Street, and you can see that on the image here, there are a couple of transverse cracks showing up, maybe a few longitudinal, still in pretty good shape. There's no potholes, it's smooth. Bicyclists, vehicles will love it, and it's in very reasonably, what we would call good condition. Then as time goes and we don't do anything to it, more cracks will begin to appear. And on this street, you're beginning to see now the presence of some block cracking, potentially a little bit of rutting as well, and the PCI has dropped to 57. At this point, the repairs are going to start getting a little bit more expensive. And if we continue not doing anything, the PCI now, in this example, is at 37. You'll see that there's some potholes. You can see patches where the old potholes were. You'll now see the prevalence of alligator cracking. Now it gets pretty expensive. And then finally, if you look at this example here with a PCI of 11, you can see that pretty much edge to edge is all alligator cracking, which tells us that structurally speaking, the asphalt has failed, and the only way to fix it is to reconstruct the street. So where does Bakersfield stand? Here's a big picture. This is a color-coded map, and if you look at this, all the green streets are in very good or good condition. The red streets are the ones that are in failed condition, And then we have the blues and the yellows and oranges, which are kind of in between. And, you know, the overall impression you'll see is that there's a lot of good streets in Bakersfield. There's also a lot of not so good streets in Bakersfield. I don't think that's a surprise to all of you who've ridden around. But it's kind of geographically distributed. And two things, if you look on the pie chart on the right-hand side, what that tells you is that right now about 40-some%, I think 43% of the roads are in good condition. So that's the good news. The not so good news is that you have a significant portion that's in poor, about a third, poor or failed condition, about 31-32%. That is going to cost money to fix. And then in between, we have another third or so in fair condition. So that's kind of the breakdown that we have today. The other indicator is if you look at the rectangles, in 2016, when we did this assessment, the average PCI was at 69. Today, in 2021, it's at 65. So it has dropped. It has deteriorated, and that's of concern. You are at a point of the curve where we consider that the steep deterioration can occur pretty quickly. We don't think it's the end of the world, but we certainly think that there are some red flags here that we've been discussing with city staff about the ways to mitigate that. So in what we're currently doing is we're working with city staff to identify some cost-effective strategies. And the point of this chart is that if you have roads that are in the green condition, in other words, good condition, typically we would recommend a slurry seal or microsurfacing, and you can see the cost is relatively low, $2 to $5 a square yard. But if we don't do anything, if we let everything fail and drop it down to the failed category where you do need now a full depth reclamation or reconstruction, you can see the cost. It's 20 to 50 times more, $60 to $100+ a square yard. That's significant. Our job is to make sure that we try to use the money to, first of all, preserve the good roads you do have, because remember, you do have a lot of good roads. And then second of all, try to chip away at the roads that are in the fair or failed condition. So what we try to do then is for every dollar that we have, we're going to try and stretch it as much as we can in this project. We're not done with the project. We're about more than about 2/3 of the way through. Some of our next steps here, as I've mentioned, we're going to update the strategies and look at the unit prices. And that's, of course, a always challenging aspect because prices are volatile and they go up and down every year. We're hoping that this year's prices will be reasonable, given that we're emerging from the pandemic. And then once we get that nailed down, we'll be performing some funding analysis for you. And what that really means is, given the existing funding level of $22 million a year, is that going to be enough? Is the PCI going to improve? Is it going to drop? Is it going to stay stable? Those are the kind of questions that we're hoping that we can answer for you. And then if that's not enough, then what will it take, for instance, to improve the PCI to 70? And 70 is a pretty common threshold or goal for most agencies to reach. And then we'll update the report for the city. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Yap. Okay. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. My question really is to Mr. Fiddler. I remember in 2016 when we had 69, we thought we could improve, and we have deteriorated quite a bit. And I thought with SB1 monies, and there's been a lot of different monies that we would be able to improve. So can you explain that to me?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Smith, yes, we did think we'd be able to improve that situation. There's been several factors, though, that has caused a little bit more distress to our pavement than what we would have expected. And as you guys all realize, that we've been doing a significant amount of road work on our freeway system, which also has an impact on the local system because we're transferring a lot of those heavy trucks to the various projects. So that's one factor that has had a little bit of impact, but in the long run, when we do get those facilities completed, it will be taking a lot of those larger vehicles off of our local networks and putting them on the highways, which have concrete pavement that are built for those type of facilities. In addition, we had a couple of really bad wet years that were long, that really deteriorated some of our streets that were in a somewhat fair condition, and took them down to the poor condition because it was a continual rain and the streets never had a time to heal up. When you have continual rains, it starts to get into the substructure of those roadways and starts to break it down from both sides, from the top and the bottom. So we did transfer, like Margot was saying, some of those ones that were on the cusp started to break down because we weren't able to go in there and heal them up because of the continual rains. But so there are a couple of issues, and then lastly, we had limited resources available to us for not funding, but just in regards to staffing and the ability to deliver projects over the last year or two, especially because of COVID. We weren't able to hit as many streets as what we would like to have at last, from March of 2020 up to now. We were very tied with how much pavement that we could do. So there's a lot of factors that have contributed to that downward spiral. What I would like to say, though, is we have now a new street superintendent that has a significant background in road resurfacing projects and is bringing a lot of new tools and techniques to our department that will help us to extend those resources that we do have. And we're looking at creative ways to extend our ability to perform more pavement techniques by using annual contract type operations and combining it with city forces, where we're good at doing a portion of the work and then using contractors to do the other portions, so we can really maximize our dollar value and complete the projects in a timely manner.
Thank you. You mentioned that we weren't able to because of staffing. Did we actually lose available funds because of that?
No, we still have funding available. Just I didn't have the resources to actually have the staff out there.
Okay, so the money's still there. It's not like the money went to somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll end up having to carry over some monies from this fiscal year into next fiscal year for paving operations. But you will see a large increase in projects. Like I mentioned, the programs that we're working on right now as an annual contract, to have a contractor come in and place a rubberized hot mix asphalt as a top cap, which is a little bit more durable. It's a thinner course, and it's a little bit more durable to our weather climates. They've since significantly improved the rubber hot mix asphalt's properties, and so we're going to be doing a lot more of that, and you're going to see long stretches of roadways get capped. Like Margot said, we're going to try to hit them early before they do fall to a state that's beyond repair.
So in your opinion, we still have the opportunity, or probable, not probable, that we can get up to 70?
Yeah, we definitely do, yes. That's our target goal, and we do have a plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Freeman.
My question is, I guess, for Mr. Fiddler and Mr. Clegg. I would like to see the budget developed to bring us to 70%, and I hope that's something one can do in 3 years, but some reasonably short period of time, and that those numbers be incorporated into the budget. I know we do a 1-year budget. It'd be nice to have a 3-year forecast. I have no idea if 22 million a year is adequate. It should be 44 million. We're all sitting here having no clue. But to get to 70, which doesn't sound great, but I guess it's acceptable, I think that's a major priority for the city, and it'd be nice to know what are those numbers, and will they crowd out some of the other things we want to do. But it's pretty high priority, so we just need that information before we finalize the budget.
Councilmember Freeman, that's a good point. And what I would like to say is we are currently at the tail end of the TRIP program, and so some of our issues with going out and paving a whole, significant amount of areas at one time is right now we're diverting a lot of the freeway traffic because of the road construction. So if we go in and continue to take out all the local roads and arterials as part of that program, we really will start creating gridlock throughout our whole city. And then we'll have a lot of citizens that are upset because I've already received a significant amount of calls from citizens in regards to the freeway projects. So the good news is we are only a few, less than a year away from completing the Centennial Corridor improvements, and that will take a lot of truck traffic and free up a lot of those issues. But the 3-year plan is definitely doable because we can start working on that program and then targeting areas that are outside of those major corridors that we're working on now. But our plan is to come back and hit those areas that were impacted by the construction and rebuilding a lot of those streets. Like California Avenue is a perfect example, from Real Road all the way to Stockdale Highway. It has been hammered because of all the additional trucks that have been using that to build the Centennial Corridor and some of the improvements on Truxton Avenue and the freeway projects. So that is our goal, is to come back and fall behind those and clean up those neighborhoods that were impacted by the project, but also spreading out throughout the city and hitting some of those projects. You're going to see significant projects, for instance, on White Lane, trying to go from Ash all the way out to Buena Vista and getting long segments and trying to put on these surface caps where the roads are good. So you're going to see a big amount of improvements.
Well, could we have at least a 3-year somewhat a forecast? If we're not going to do as much next year because of the freeway repairs, then we're doubling up the following 2 years. But I still want some numbers. I don't want to just, you don't get any numbers. I really would like to know, what do we spend next year, and what do we think we'll be spending as you layer this in the next, let's say, next 2 years? And will that get us to 70%, just so we know what's going on?
Definitely. So just so you're aware, we programmed 2 years in advance for all of our federal and state funding. So we are in the process of doing what we call our RSTP, which is our Regional Surface Transportation Plan, is where we get a significant amount of money for our resurfacing projects. Those are due in August of this year. So we're developing those projects as we speak, and that will put us out to the next 3 years. So we'll bring those in. We'll also incorporate this SB1 monies projects, because we know that how much money is programmed for each one of those on an annual basis. So we can develop those street limits and those projects and then provide those to you.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, I would just speak a little bit to timing of information and what information. So one of the deliverables, as Margot had pointed out, from the study that NCE is doing, is essentially a recommended budget to get us to the 70. So that will be a deliverable in the scope that is identified here, and we'll present that to council. What will it take us over this, and we can do it on a 3-year basis. What will it take us to get to that 70? Now, that won't be ready in the next 4 weeks before we adopt the budget. But I think it's probably reasonable to think that will be available before we submit those federal plans, as well as before our mid-year. And given that we are carrying forward some dollars from current year to next year, and we are going to be, you'll see at the workshop on June 7th, there's significant dollars for road repairs in this year's proposed budget. I think it's actually higher than the $22 million. I think it's close to $30 million proposed in road repairs for next year. So we absolutely will be doing a lot of road repairs this coming year. If we want to add more based on the numbers that you're asking for, we'll have some opportunities at mid-year and next cycle to put more dollars to meet that goal, and we will get you those numbers. I just think it won't probably be before budget adoption, but you'll see there's significant funding in this year's budget.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Vice Mayor.
Motion to receive and file.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes. Thank you, Ms. Yap.
Thank you.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Parlier absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
New business item 13B, presentation of a street light study prepared by JMPE.
Mr. Clegg, are we going to Mr. Fiddler?
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, you guys are really working me out tonight. So going into our Bakersfield street lighting study, we're calling this phase one. When we took on this study, we didn't realize the magnitude of what this project involved. As we go into this is only a portion of the city to give you reference of how many streetlights there are in the city. We maintain over 17,000 streetlights. So you can see on this screen, there's some areas that are a little bit denser than others, and then there's some areas that show that there's no streetlights at all. Doesn't mean that there are no streetlights in those areas. It could mean that that is a private community, and we do not maintain the streetlights within that area. For example, you can see in the bottom left corner, there's Cal State Bakersfield. That's a pretty large chunk right there off of south of Stockdale Highway. There are lights within that community or that school. It just doesn't show up. And again, just a little bit to the left and lower of that, you see Seven Oaks. Well, Seven Oaks has streetlights within their areas, but they are private, and we do not maintain those. So that just to give you a little bit of reference to the magnitude of the project. Going into this, the scope, the central research questions will increase lighting levels throughout the city, decrease incidents of crime and vehicular accidents. The focused areas of study are areas that already meet sufficient lighting standards, areas absent of any lighting, areas that have some but deficient lighting, and areas with deficient lighting and high crime rates and accident rates, and then areas that have adequate lighting but also have high crime rates and accident rates. We did hire a consultant, JMPE, and I have John Maloney here with me for questions later. So we went through a selection process, issued an RFQ, RFP, and selected JMPE as the consultant to perform this study. So as part of the study, went through multiple studies that have linked, or they found that multiple studies have linked increased lighting to a reduction of nighttime collision incidents among vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists. Scientific literature is less conclusive that increased lighting alone is enough to reduce crime, yet lighting may be sufficient component in a larger multi-pronged solution to reduce community crime. Key benefits to the increased lighting include creating a safe feeling in a community space. As people feel safer, more people circulate through the space even at night. Increased pedestrian circulation will typically improve security. There's more eyes on the ground, more people around. There's going to be less potential for someone to commit a crime. So also increased circulation generates more commerce for local businesses. Increased circulation enriches the social culture through events, organizational gatherings, and tourism. What we're seeing from the literature is, the more people that you have out on the streets, the lighter the area is, the more inviting it is, the less potential for crime. But there is nothing really that links it to a reduced crime. So here's some of the tools that our consultant used to go out and measure some of the lighting at some of our major intersections where they have identified that there was either high vehicle-to-vehicle, pedestrian-to-vehicle, or bicycle-to-vehicle accidents. And the light meter it reads the light lumens in foot candles. So it's just a tool that we use to determine how much light there is within that area. They went through and did a 10-foot grid in some of these higher accident areas and crime areas to see what the light readings were. They used data collection. They consulted with the Bakersfield City Police Department. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Somehow it's jumping on its own. And they coordinated the incident data utilizing Crossroads Analytics software. That's what the police department enters in all their accident and crime data information. And we used meetings between our consultant, JMPE, the Public Works Department, and the Traffic Engineering Division and the police department to go through the various areas. Through the data acquisition, the incidents reports were conducted between January 1st, 2015 through December 31st of 2019. Again, going back into the police department's databases, Crosswind Analytics used 11 different data points for incidents ranging from direction of travel, date, time, type of vehicle, accident. Those are all data that the police department collects when they're at the scene. And then also in the Crosswind Analytics, they've looked at 15 different type of causes of what caused the accident, whether it be a DUI, unsafe speed, hazardous movements. So they had to analyze each one of these to see if lighting was a factor or if it was some other factor that caused those accidents. And so among the various causes, it was time of day. It seemed to be one of the major correlations between the event. So there were more accidents at night. Now, was that because of the person was drinking at night, or was it because of the light? Those are some of the things that they had to go through and decipher what the true cause of the accident was. So I'm not going to go through this slide, but I just wanted to show you that there was a method to their madness. They did use some calculations to determine, as they were reviewing each intersection and the street segments that they were looking at, to determine what the foot candles were, which is the light levels for the area, just so they can have a basis of what to make their judgments on. So as the results, the study reviewed 5 areas based on input from police department and community, traffic engineering, some of you staff from different departments to analyze where some of the high rates of vandalism and crime are, pedestrian vehicle accidents, and then some of the things that might be a different cause, but it's a safety feature, is a roadway geometric change. If it's a end of a cul-de-sac or maybe a sharp corner or something like that, just to verify that those type of changes in the roadway are well lit, so it informs the driver of those changes, or even the pedestrian or the bicyclist. So the study also reviewed 56 intersections based on the information that they gathered from the Crosswinds Analytics. Those reviewed the most dangerous intersections at night. They came to the conclusion that most dangerous intersections at night are the darkest. Intersections with higher average light levels tend to be a little bit safer. So they went out there and physically measured the lights at these 56 intersections by taking that light meter and going every 10 feet and capturing a grid just to see how the light played a role in those accidents. So the findings is that their recommendation is, if the city's aim to reduce vehicular accidents, whether it's pedestrian vehicles and bicycles, the team recommends increasing light levels at each intersection that are below to the 1.7 foot candles, which is the IES recommendation. So moving into what the next steps were based off of these findings, we're ready to prepare construction documents for those intersections, and also for the 5 areas that we studied. There are larger areas, some residential areas, and then some areas in the downtown core where there's a lot of pedestrian foot traffic, a few streets that the police department had recommended because there are frequent stops that they have to go to based off of their crime data. And we're going to start working on those projects. And then the next phase would be for us to amend the agreement with JMPE to start phase 2, which would then dive into a little bit deeper dive, and they have been analyzing some of the bike and ped movements, and part of the study did include analyzing the bike and ped safety plan, which included some accident data, but taking a deeper dive to see where we're seeing more bikes and peds on the roadways, and prioritizing some of those. They'll continue to analyze crime data, incident reports as those become available as well, and then looking at the higher rates, and then continue to analyze the roadways near schools, parks, shopping centers, the downtown area, and then also continue with the implementation of streetlights on collectors and local roadways. As you saw from that map on that I provided earlier, you can see some areas that have dense streetlights, and then you see areas that have a little bit of streetlights, and then you see the areas that have no streetlights. So they're going to start prioritizing all those areas based on what we can install, programs that we can install with which would be quick, whether there's infrastructure already there and we can enhance it. If the street lights are on a conduit system and all we have to do is come in and drop an intermediate pole in certain locations, or there's also the options of now LED has become very more efficient, and we might be able to come in with a new LED head that has a broader spread over the street, and we can really make some quick improvements knowing that we'll come back later and fill in more. So trying to prioritize these areas and create a system that we can come in and ultimately capture the whole city and bring in a sufficient lighting for the whole city. And that's the next task that we'll be working with JMPE. The good news is we've already have enough money budgeted to complete those next 2 phases. We'd programmed originally $100,000 into the streetlight study system. We have enough already working through our consultant to get through phase 1 and the implementation of most of the projects in phase 1. So they'll be starting the design of those intersections and some of those street improvements in phase 1, but we'll come back and amend their agreement to start the phase 2 design review and implementation. But again, we already have enough funding available, so we do not need to come back and change that. The whole goal is for us to be able to go in and start utilizing some of the monies that we had $1 million set aside for improvements through the PSVS in last fiscal year. We want to try to get that money going with this first phase, and while we're working through that, we'll continue to just ramp through the next phases and develop that prioritization as we continue to bring these projects forward. So with that, I'm open to questions, and also we have John Maloney here, who is the principal for JMPE.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Nick, to you and the consultant and your team for this report. It's a long time coming.
Yeah.
It's something that we've been asking for quite some time, and I'm excited about the report findings. I feel good about some of the progress we've made with the LED light conversion throughout the city, with more recently the smart city lighting devices that will allow us to modulate the lighting in certain neighborhoods. So I think we're headed in the right direction. But as someone who represents, an area, some neighborhoods that have some of the darkest streets and intersections, this is a matter of urgent matter for me, especially as it relates to public safety. My question: do we have the actual list of the intersections and roadways that you can share with the council?
Yeah, we actually have the study, and we can deliver you the study that has that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Councilmember Smith.
Do we know how many intersections we're going to be able to fix with the $1 million?
We're planning. There's 56 intersections that are studied. We believe that we could reach those 56.
So all 56 were problems?
I'd have to ask John Maloney. I don't know that every one of those were a problem, but the 56 of them they studied, we might have to come in and replace maybe 1 or 2 of the heads, maybe all 4, depending on what the light studies.
So it was likely that they were problems because we studied the ones that had accidents. or
Yes,
minor stuff.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, great. Yeah, I would like to know, I'd like to see the study
Yep.
also and what the intersections are.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Arias.
Nick, thank you so much for the presentation. I, like my colleagues, are super excited that this is coming back, and I'm excited that we're going to be able to make headway on some of these intersections while we continue to look deeper into the other phases of the study. One of the things that I want to, actually it should be a question, is when BPD is evaluating the violence and crime as it relates to doing better on street lighting, do they take into consideration human trafficking? Because oftentimes those do not take place on arterial vessels and arterial roads in our community, and oftentimes it's on these side streets that'll take place. I could tell you that from personal experience. Many of my neighbors and businesses in the area can tell you that, and so I'm hoping that we can take that into consideration as we continue to evaluate this.
Definitely, we'll be working closely with the Bakersfield Police Department continue to work closely with them on this study and we'll ask them to specifically address those areas.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Vice Mayor?
Motion to receive and file.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes. Thank you, Mr. Fiddler.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Parlier absent.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Council and mayor statements.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, the council approved an agreement with Spin for our bike share program throughout the city. I think this is a great step in the right direction for the city of Bakersfield. I just want to commend Public Works and Nick Fiddler and all your team for all the heavy lifting throughout the years to get this done. I'm really excited about it, and so are many people throughout the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Any other requests to speak, colleagues? I don't see any. This is EMS week, and I know that I sent a request to Mr. Clegg to forward that on to you, colleagues. We've been asked to post this on social media, and what a debt we owe to those who serve us in the emergency medical services. And we just want to say thank you to all of you who are in service of that, and just continue to celebrate you. Thank you. What a difficult year it has been, but thank you for your service. And colleagues, Mr. Mockley urged us just to get it out on social media and to express our thanks. And so we do that. I don't see any other requests to speak, and so we are adjourned at 6:49.